What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday night. Anon here. And we've seen an interesting trend of odd, or perhaps a better adjective is different behavior out of the Pokemon Company, really in the last 4 to 6 weeks, and even more so with Chaos Rising. So I want to start really by mentioning those of you who don't have distributor access. Generally speaking, when there's a reprint or a second wave of stuff that comes after the release date, you basically have the silo that's called release pricing, right? Which is where you get your wholesale pricing. But once that window's closed, almost every distributor in the world increases price, or they keep the price the same and they add some things on that you have to buy if you so choose. Um, and this happens in foreign countries as well. Asmodee, for example, is very well known in Europe for extracting as much profit out of product for themselves after the market, after the release window has closed. And this is something that they've done time and time again. So I was really surprised. This is probably 3 weeks ago. And for those of you who aren't aware, Europe got a very sizable reprint of Destin Rivals booster boxes. They were printed in the Netherlands. So when this was announced, a bunch of stores that I have contacts with in Europe were like, "Oh, we can't wait to see, if they're going to charge 400 euro or whatever the price was at that point in time." Um, so I didn't think anything about it, and I get a message, and it was like, "Holy shit, you're not gonna believe this! Uh, Asmodee is charging original price." And I think the price was like $3.25 a pack, and these guys were like, "We've never seen this before, so we don't know what's going on, but it's a little bit of smoke, and it's really really interesting." And it really plays into if you guys recall summer 2025, MJ Holdings has a subsidiary called GT Collectibles. So if you see GT Collectibles selling product on Walmart, it is MJ Holdings. And they were jacking the price up pretty substantially. And I've been told, and I do believe that they were had the wrist slapped a little bit, and were told, "Don't do this anymore." It's kind of whether it's against the agreement or just in bad taste, or certainly not a direction that the Pokemon Company condones. All of that kind of went away. Now they did mark things up an extra $5 or $10 a unit after that. But the whole scale, I guess we'll call it GameStop behavior, GameStopification, that ended at that point in time. So it's interesting because we have two data points where it does appear that the Pokemon Company has clearly told distributors, albeit two different supply chain or sell through type distributors, one going to big box stores, one selling to LGSs in Europe, to cool it and keep the price reasonable. And part of the reason for this is when distributors charge an increased price to LGSs, obviously their cost basis is higher. That is effectively the hard floor in the product. So if you're trying to let air out of the bubble, or deflate a little bit of the current situation, it's not going to happen if the distributors are effectively taking all of the profit out. You really need to keep that price to LGSs or whomever you're selling to as low as possible, inundate the market with product, and then let the broke ass Timmy stores race to zero. And you really have to reset price memory on a lot of these things. So I think that's part of the reason why what happened. Now, that being said, what I found out, this was yesterday. Latin American distributors have apparently been cut by as much as 50% on what they're getting for Chaos Rising English print cards. For those of you who aren't aware, foreign language cards are still printed in North Carolina at Millennium Print Group in the US. But for the longest time, there was a substantial amount of English Pokemon cards that went to Latin American distributors, Mexican distributors, etc. that almost immediately were turned around and sent back to the United States. So it looks like the Pokemon Company has made a concerted effort to ship far less English product to Latin America and keep it in the United States, which is most likely why we're seeing a 10 to 15% increase in SKUs across the board. I found that to be really, really fascinating because that kind of leads me to believe that just given their print cadence and their timeline, kind of what they're printing, what they're printing. So now they've engaged in redirecting product to markets that need it more than other markets. And it's also going to keep some of the stores that are importing from Mexico from I don't want to say dinging the market because it's not really a fair statement, but it's going to keep the product within the borders where the product is the most demanded, which I find really 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 interesting. Now, obviously, that is part of the way that you can keep the price down is dumping more product on the market. Now, one of the things that I think most of you guys have realized is Phantasmal Flames. Now, obviously, Ascended Heroes is a massive set, but Phantasmal Flames, Chaos Rising, or Perfect Order, Chaos Rising, and then Pitch Black are all very, very small sets. And my theory as to why those sets are small is it minimizes the amount of print capacity and allows them to get caught up more. So when they switch their print lines around the end of the month here to go from printing Ascended Heroes and the rest of these sets, they can focus on 30th anniversary and not fall behind. So the easiest way to do that is you print a smaller set. You have fewer print sheets. You have less collation issues. It just makes things all around easier, really on all parts of the supply chain. So that being said, another thing that is a little interesting, and I've been thinking about this, is with the new Pokemon Center. We'll just use controls in quotes because look, there's no preventing bots from happening on the site, but there are certain ways to at least minimize the impact over the short term. And obviously, there's so much in botting that the groups writing the software effectively have unlimited resources, and they're most likely going to come out ahead in the long term every single time. But in this instance, I think it's fascinating because we know we have all these booster boxes that have been printed. We now have a change in Pokemon Center that is presumably an invite-only system that limits the folks that can buy product on Pokemon Center. And again, this is a little tinfoil hatty, but I wonder if the Pokemon Company's plan isn't to dump all of the reprints on Pokemon Center after they have these controls in place and just try to sell everything at the market for MSRP. Your Destined, your Mega One, your Phantasmal. And quite honestly, if it's $1.5 million boxes of Phantasmal, Mega One, Destined, you're looking at just shy of $5 million. At MSRP, you're talking $750 million. That is going to sit on the market for a substantial amount of time. Now, I have no proof. I am totally talking out of my ass on this, but it kind of makes sense given all these other data points and what they seem to be doing to kind of band-aid what they can in the meantime. And, obviously having more and more product come into the market here with Chaos Rising, also creating less in demand because we have some smaller sets. It really does appear that they're kind of aiming for a soft landing here, really until we get into July, August, when they start to ramp up the 30th anniversary hype and all that stuff. So, I just want to talk about this a little bit because I kind of think Chaos Rising is going to be, it's obviously going to be more popular than Perfect Order, but I'm guessing their Greninja this set's probably going to be a $400 or $500 card, the gold version. You're probably looking at $250 to $350. And if that's the case, the sealed product is going to sell, and it's going to sell reasonably well. Certainly much better than Perfect Order. So I think that's interesting. And then we'll see what happens with Pitch Black. an Emerald Storm or Storm Emerald or whatever context is going to be in November. But quite honestly, it's not going to matter because 30th anniversary is going to be absolutely bad shit crazy. So, anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and we'll talk tomorrow for our distro update.